although he died 2 years ago, and you'll see why we're hearing about him now. Ronald Green, a 49-year-old black man, lived in Monroe, Louisiana. He was married, worked as a barber, and had recently gone into remission after battling cancer for 2 years. On May 10, 2019, Ronald was on his way to meet his wife in Florida when he died shortly after midnight. The authorities told Mr. Green's relatives at the time that he died from injuries he sustained in a crash outside Monroe after he failed to stop immediately for a traffic violation. The Union Parish, Louisiana coroner ruled that Mr. Green's death was accidental and was attributed to cardiac arrest following the crash. But in June of this year, 2021, over 2 years after Ronald's death, the Associated Press obtained body camera footage of the episode and published several excerpts. The footage shows Mr. Green's SUV stopped on the side of the road. Troopers are seen opening his vehicle and jolting Mr. Green with a stun gun. And Mr. Green is heard to scream, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm your brother, I'm scared." The video shows no evidence that Mr. Green was injured from the crash, nor does he appear to resist arrest. Mr. Green was unarmed. According to body cam video footage from the encounter, police body cam, one trooper wrestled Mr. Green to the ground, put him in a chokehold, and punched him in the face. Another trooper is seen dragging Mr. Green by shackles on his ankles as he lay on the ground. In the video, the troopers, who were all white, left Mr. Green lying face down and moaning for more than 9 minutes as they wiped blood from their own hands and faces. "I hope this guy ain't got AIDS," one of the troopers is heard to say, adding an expletive. Video from several minutes later shows Mr. Green limp, unresponsive, and bleeding from his head and face, and he is then seen being loaded onto an ambulance gurney with his arm cupped to a bed rail. In a second body cam video, a trooper can be heard saying that he had beat Mr. Green using an expletive. Quote, "Choked him and everything else, trying to get him under control," the trooper says. The video shows no evidence that Mr. Green resisted arrest in any manner. After Mr. Green was in cuffs, the trooper says he was, quote, "still fighting, and we were still wrestling with him, trying to hold him down, because he was spitting blood everywhere, and then all of a sudden he just went limp." Ronald Green was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. At the time of the 2019 incident, a single-page crash report stated that troopers tried to stop Mr. Green for an unspecified traffic violation, but he refused to pull over, and troopers pursued. The official report, says that the chase ended when Mr. Green's vehicle crashed, that he was taken into custody after struggling with troopers, and that he became unresponsive and died on the way to the hospital. The official crash report did not have any mention of any use of any force by the troopers. The Louisiana State Police later released a statement, this is in 2019, that the troopers did use force in the encounter, but said that the use of force was justified under the circumstances. It did not open an investigation internally until 474 days after Mr. Green's death. Although the video footage was not made public until June of 2021, the Green family had been given access a year after Ronald's death. The family sued the police for wrongful death in May 2020, arguing that he had died as a result of the struggle with troopers that left him beaten, bloodied, and in cardiac arrest. The family commissioned an independent autopsy and found severe injuries to Mr. Green's head and skull and several wounds to his face, the family's lawyer said. After examining the damage to Mr. Green's vehicle, which was mostly on the rear driver's side, an accident reconstruction expert concluded that it was inconsistent with a fatal collision. The Green family's lawsuit includes several defendants. One of the troopers, Corey York, served a 50-hour suspension and returned to active duty pending the outcome of state and federal investigations. He was found to have violated policies regarding the treatment of prisoners in custody and the activation of his camera. Another trooper, Chris Hollingsworth, died in a car crash in September 2020. Mr. Hollingsworth, according to the Associated Press, had been notified hours earlier that he would be fired as a result of an internal police investigation into Mr. Green's death. A third trooper, Dakota DeMoss, was one of 4 Louisiana state troopers involved this past February 2021 in an unrelated case on charges of using excessive force and deactivating their body cameras while making arrests. The state police said Trooper DeMoss was fired on June 4, 2021 as a result of a disciplinary proceeding that had nothing to do with Mr. Green's death. Lieutenant John Clary, the highest-ranking state trooper on scene during Ronald Green's assault and death, claimed at the time that he had no body cam footage. Later, when it was discovered that he did in fact have body cam video, his statements at the time of the incident were shown to be false. Clary lied to investigators that Green had been, quote, still resisting even though he was handcuffed. He was still trying to get away and was not cooperating, end quote. In another false statement, Clary claimed troopers sat Green up and, quote, immediately held his head up so he could get a clear airway. None of the videos showed that they ever tried to sit up Mr. Green. Lieutenant Clary received no disciplinary action for his role in Ronald Green's death, nor for lying to investigators and engaging in a cover-up. Yet 2 days ago, State Trooper Carl Cavalier, a 33-year-old black officer who has spoken publicly about the death of Ronald Green and asked for accountability, was notified that he was to be fired for, quote, conduct unbecoming an officer in seeking publicity and violating public statement and department loyalty policy. Finally, last month, federal authorities opened a civil rights investigation into Ronald Green's death. The FBI, the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, and the United States Attorney's Office for the Western District of Louisiana are handling the federal investigation. Please kneel with me for 9 minutes and 29 seconds to remember and honor Ronald Green.